So, Gotham Knights. It's definitely one of the games ever. Um, and what I want to do is kind of discuss it, I guess. I want to discuss this game because I have a lot of emotion invested in it, and honestly, I'm quite disappointed. But I'm not going to say that that's my definitive review of the game. I want to talk through it and really explore why I'm disappointed, while maybe educating some of you, helping you decide whether you'd like to buy the game or not. So yeah, it's going to be largely unscripted. I just have a couple points I want to make. So yeah, okay. To start off, it's probably important that I let you all know where I'm at with the game, so that you understand my perspective and you understand why I have the sort of problems that I have with the game. So, where I'm at in the game is I've just pretty much completed New Game Plus, so I haven't completed the three, you know, side questy bosses. I haven't completed those because, quite frankly, they bore me. So, who I main? Okay, well, I main Robin because I think Robin is the closest to the Arkham games. Now, hear me out. A lot of people have been saying that Batgirl is the closest thing to Batman if you really enjoyed the Arkham games. They're wrong, okay? If you haven't played this game, but you really like Batman Arkham, don't play Batgirl, play Robin. Because Robin is far more enjoyable. He's far closer to what Batgirl is trying to be, to what Batman was. He is by far the most enjoyable character in Gotham Knights, if you enjoyed the Arkham games. Now, it's probably a good idea to get the first issue out of the way, okay? The frame rate. So, I'm on console, if you couldn't tell by the gameplay behind. Um, I'm playing on the Series X, and I've been seeing a lot of arguments. Let's just say, a lot of arguments about this game and its performance. If you weren't living under a rock, you will have seen on Twitter the absolute catastrophe that Gotham Knights caused. The fact that 30 FPS was a trending topic, the fact that we had developers arguing over the Series S, and like we've got this whole new argument now of like whether Microsoft is ruining the gaming market. I'm not going to get into it. It's stupid, but I want to just say I do have a problem with the frame rate. 30 FPS is fine to me, but I've really been having a lot of stability issues, and I'm sure many of you have as well. I think that it's quite frankly disgusting that the opening cinematic had frame drops. I mean, come on, man. That wasn't even in-game. That wasn't even rendered in-game. That was an opening cinematic, and it had frame drops. Like, that's just kind of unacceptable, really. I mean, how long for this game? 7 years? And the opening cinematic isn't even stable? Yeah, I'm at a loss for words, quite honestly, with that. But just because the frame rate does pose a problem doesn't mean I haven't enjoyed this game, because I really have. I've played this game a lot. I probably have 50 hours plus on this game now, and I have enjoyed it. I really have. My like off the bat, I think skill trees, right? I think skill trees are really cool. I really like the skill trees. I've had my hands on Batgirl, Robin, and Nightwing so far. I haven't played Red Hood because, well, I'll be honest, he bores me. I think his character is cool in the comics. I do not think his character is cool in the games. That's just me. But yeah, Robin. I think if you're going to play Robin, your go-to has got to be the middle skill tree. I mean, that's really the only way to play Robin, going for full stealth. Um, his elemental stuff, kind of cool. I do like it, but really not the like crux of his gameplay. I mean, if you're going to be playing Robin, just look at the stuff in the background, right? You got to go stealth, otherwise you're kind of useless, and that's just the way it is. And I'll talk about that a bit more i- in a bit further in the video. Um, Batgirl's skill trees, yeah, okay. I do kind of have a problem with her stuff. I mean, her whole thing is becoming a tank, but I thought Red Hood was the tanky character. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. Either way, I do like the second wind abilities. I do like the middle skill tree a lot. I think the first skill tree is also really useful, but I personally went for the Oracle skill tree. I think all of the hacking abilities are way more enjoyable, at least. Maybe not viable, but definitely enjoyable. Um, Nightwing. Nightwing. I'll be honest, I didn't really get that far into Nightwing. I haven't played him a lot. But from what I can understand, I think he is really better off with a co-op centric playstyle. I think if you're going to be playing with friends, Nightwing's got to be one of the two. That's about all I have to say on Nightwing. And again, Red Hood. I haven't played Red Hood, so I'm not gonna talk about Red Hood. However, though I may like the skill trees to a certain extent, I do not like the RPG style. Now, you can call me whatever you like, an Arkham fanboy, whatever, right? I do not like the RPG. Simple as that. I think that having level ups is just a given in games. Like, come on, that is a given. You got level ups. It's cool to get stronger. You wanna feel strong. You wanna feel powerful. I get that. I don't think the gear system really complements this game very well. I think alternative rewards would have been nice. So, for example, with the crimes, I think rather than getting gear, which I think that's disgusting. Like, complete a crime, you get gear. Just the concept. Ugh, no. I think you should earn a reward, perhaps a new suit. Maybe that could be the way you get your new suits, right? It is, in a way, how you get your new suits, because you get the resources, you get the blueprints, then you build them. Yeah, I get it, right? I understand. You don't need to shout, but I do think that resource grind is kind of shit. I've seen a lot of people say, if you're grinding, you're playing it wrong. Well, I will agree to a certain extent with that. I didn't really feel the need to grind, but once I hit New Game Plus, End Game, I really felt it, right? Because the enemies are just too strong. Take it as bias because I'm playing Robin, but Robin is way too weak at Endgame. Simple as I can make it, right? You'll notice in some of the footage in the background that while Robin's stealth is quite possibly overpowered, right? He is very strong in stealth. If you make a single mistake, you're forced into really mediocre combat with Robin. Now, once you've got the flow down, Robin is really fun. He's really easy to play. Um, but he's just weak. So many criminal strongholds have been failed because he isn't strong enough. That's as simple as I can make it. I've been to criminal strongholds, very high difficulty. I don't have the gear I need, and I can't stealth take down the enemies. Now, not being able to sorry about that. Not being able to stealth take down the enemies as the stealthiest character who has a stealth skill tree, and that is where he is strongest, is just stupid, in my opinion. I think not being able to play the character you want in the way that you want because of levels, no, that's really not cool. But speaking of Robin's gameplay, I do think his stealth is really fun. I mean, this is what I was talking about earlier. I think if you want to play a Batman Arkham game, Robin is your go-to because he is by far the closest to Batman you're going to feel. If you enjoyed sneaking around and taking out enemies quietly, then you're going to enjoy Robin. If you enjoyed setting traps, you're going to enjoy playing Robin. He has the whole pellet thing, like setting up mines, vantage takedowns, right? He is the closest to Batman if you enjoyed the Arkham games. Play Robin. His combat, again, yeah, no, his combat is not very good. I really went into the elemental build, as I'm sure you can tell. Yeah, it kind of underperforms. You can get the elemental effects off a lot. I will say the frequency is really fun, and it satisfies me to like get all the different elements going and have explosions here and there, but let's be honest, it's not the best way to take enemies down, especially compared to Batgirl, who can just quite honestly absolutely pummel enemies. Take enemies down in 1 or 2 hits, guaranteed. I have played Batgirl, I have played the same crimes I've played with Robin, same difficulty, same gear score. Batgirl is way stronger in combat, just by far. Traversal, okay, yeah, well, I think traversal is its own issue, quite honestly. But in terms of praise for the traversal, I think the bike is fun. I think the grapple hook, I like the change made to the grapple hook. I enjoyed the sort of Spider-Man PS4-esque, you know, zip, I guess you could say, like zipping to a point. I really enjoy that. It allows for a lot more flexibility in stealth encounters, especially. I think Robin's teleport is really fun. I I use it more in terms of getting the jump on enemies, but for general sort of moving around the city, it's not really very good. It's kind of boring, and it's much, much faster to use the grapple hook. But on the point of movement, I will have to say that movement, not traversal, but movement, is clunky, right? There will be, at some point in this video, I'm quite sure, some footage where I'm really struggling to hold down the A button, the prompt, right, to interact. Because you have to not only face the object you're trying to interact with, but you have to be right next to it. Now this is really quite difficult to achieve because Robin, for whatever reason, does not want to line up with the interaction prompt. He would rather stand at the side, get stuck on corners, just generally not obey whatever I'm trying to do, right? And I've had this problem with all of the other knights as well, that I've played. Obviously I haven't played Red Hood, but you get stuck a lot. Way too much. Now, they've recently patched out the stupid thing where if you're on a vantage point and then you drop down, you do a massive jump forward. They've patched that out, and I'm very happy for that. The next thing I'd like them to look at is the clunkiness of trying to interact with prompts, because the amount of times I have not been able to orient Robin correctly, it's really annoying. I can't even explain it properly. It's clunky, to say the least. I think the bike, as fun as it is also quite clunky. It's not very fast, and you're constantly crashing into stuff. The drifting is a nightmare on console. I mean, you've actually got better control without the drift than if you drift. You can do corners way easier if you don't drift. I don't know why. That's how it is. Right. What else? What else? Crimes. Okay. Let's talk about crimes for a bit. Okay. So, I have good and bad with crimes. Okay? I really like the system. I really like the system. I think the patrolling is a really awesome sort of inclusion to the game. I think the Arkham games would have benefited greatly from this sort of system. I really enjoy it. I like that you can gather intel, the interrogation. I've got to say, the interrogation, really fun. I wish that was a thing in the Arkham games because I enjoyed all of the interrogation scenes in the Arkham games, and I think that in Gotham Knights it's really cool that you get to do those interrogations whenever you feel like it. And the fact that it contributes to the next night of crimes, wonderful, amazing inclusion. But again, crimes overlaps with the grinding. I really hate the resource grinding. Now, it could be ignorance on my part, because again, there is that argument that if you're grinding, you're doing it wrong. But the struggle to get Robin to level 40 in terms of gear score it was ridiculous to say the least. Because I'm not the sort of person to downgrade my items to get a higher level. I would rather continue on. So, to clarify, when I finished my original playthrough, I was max level, and I had grinded for quite a while to get the gear, and I put legendary mod chips on everything. You know, I was as strong as possible with Robin. I had stealth-focused gear. I was very, very powerful. Then I moved into New Game Plus, and up until level 40, my level 30 max gear was stronger than any enemy I'd faced, including bosses. And then the moment I hit that level 40, I was so weak, it was unreal. Robin was useless against level 40 enemies, and then I was stuck, because I had to get higher level gear, legendary, higher level gear, that would allow me to fight the enemies at level 40. But I was using level 30 gear, and what I encountered was that while the quest is very simple, say Penguin, he will offer a quest to go and defeat 3 hunter talons and take on a criminal stronghold. While that is simple, finding those crimes is not as simple. And I went from maybe night 16 to night 42 trying to get max level gear because I couldn't get the right crimes to spawn at the right difficulty. I had a bit of an issue with that. That really detracted from the experience. I found that these spontaneous crimes were now nothing more than a hindrance, and I really disliked doing them. Once I hit level 40, I found renewed enjoyment in the crimes. It was great. But that in between really, really detracted from the whole experience of the game. And actually, speaking of, that's the same for the bosses. I really, really, really dislike the bosses. I don't know how else to say it. They are terrible, right? No one can defend the bosses. You just can't. Harley Quinn's fight was boring as hell. Mr. Freeze's fight was even more boring, and Clayface was ridiculous. That was just crap. All topped off by me playing Robin. If you've played Gotham Knights, if you've played Robin, if you've fought a boss with Robin, please let me know if you've had the same experience. Robin is terrible against bosses. He just is. He is so bad that I had to turn the difficulty down from medium to very easy just to fight the bosses because I couldn't be bothered with them anymore. They're so boring, they're so strong. Robin was useless. No. Really bad. Really, really bad. On the other hand, if you play Batgirl, the bosses are a piece of cake. I mean, the disparity between Robin and Batgirl, I hate it. I really hate it. She's way too good in combat, and you can't stealth the bosses, so Robin is just pointless. Yeah. Anyway, forgetting about that. Uh, a sort of branching off from that is the enemy types. I think... well, speaking of boring, there are some boring enemy types. We can't ignore this. They are terrible. Court of Owls, I don't care how much you like the Court of Owls comics, they are a terrible villain in this game. Terrible. The Talons are so boring to fight, it's unreal. Again, some of this is because Robin's combat is bad, so just bear with me on this point. But the Guardian Talons, no, not the Guardian Talon, the Hunter Talons, they are terrible. This whole dancing around, trying not to get hit by poison daggers nonsense has to stop. I'm not dealing with this anymore. They're so bad. Guardian Talons aren't that bad. They're probably the most enjoyable version of the Talons because they're actually a fair fight. There's like, you get the option to use your perfect evades. It's really fun against the Guardian Talons. The normal ones, I can't remember what they're called. They're like ratty Talons, the ones that are just generic as hell. They're boring because it's the constant let me do a dodge and then hold down the ranged button to knock them on their feet. Then I go up and grab them and do a takedown. That routine is boring. I'm sorry, it's boring as hell. They're not fun to fight at all. And this problem is actually shared by the League of Shadows, which also I hate that name because, well, call me an Arkham fanboy, but the League of Assassins was just a way nicer way of saying it, and League of Shadows is just really, just so cliche and boring. But yeah, the League, they have this really dancey fight. I guess they're like really. They're like ballerinas almost. They're just kind of dancing around and disappearing constantly. That not cool. I don't want to be stood still for 10 seconds waiting for an assassin to appear, only for him to put me in a cutscene as he stabs me in the back and then stabs me in the chest. I just... no. They are a terrible fight. And they're tanky, to boot. They have so much health. No. No. I'm not even talking about them anymore because I hate them so much. And then, finally, I guess, in terms of enemy types, the guns. Let's just talk about the guns. Now, I am playing without the UI, so you might think this is biased, and it probably is, but I hate the guns, okay? I just hate them. Simple as that. I hate that when I'm fighting in an encounter, I just randomly get shot, and you can't dodge after the first hit, you can't block, because there's no block in the game. You're just taking it. A stream of bullets you just have to eat up because you missed the prompt that you were about to be shot. And then, to top it off, they'll shoot twice in a row, and, you know, again, without the UI it does make it kind of hard to dodge, but I'm not going to complain about that because I turned the UI off for a reason. But the guns themselves, yeah, I really don't like them. I think that if I turned the UI on, I'd probably be fine with them, but that's not really a good thing because I shouldn't have to constantly be messing around with the settings for different fights. I mean, take my boss's example again. I mean, I had to turn down the difficulty setting, not because the bosses were too hard, but because they were so long and so boring that I just had to make them easy so they'd be over faster. It's kind of the same thing with the guns, is like having to change settings just to fight a particular enemy is stupid. So I'm just going to go out there and say that guns are crap. I really hate them. They're so much worse than they were in Arkham. Way, way worse. They're freaking annoying. They add elemental effects as well, so you might even end up stunned after taking the damage. Disgusting. But yeah, that about sums up my enemy types and all of that. So there's only a couple topics left that I really want to talk about now. Mm, I think I think they can actually be kind of put into one, but not necessarily. But okay, so bugs, bugs in the game. Now it's a new IP, it's a new release. I get it. All right, it's like what 2 weeks old at this point, not even. Anyway, I don't mind there being bugs. I really don't. It doesn't phase me to have bugs. I'm not that sort of person. Any game I play it, I've never really been caring about bugs ever. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077 had bugs. I really didn't care about that. I played that day one on Series X. It was fine. Um, but there is a specific bug in the game that I really dislike, and it has just been patched out. So I will give them credit for that, but that doesn't mean I don't want to talk about it because it was a really strange issue that makes me quite skeptical about the game overall. So, when I did a criminal stronghold, there was one enemy in particular, and he would sit in a corner, sort of cross-legged, with his fingers out in a sort of meditating pose. If you've ever seen cliche meditation, just sort of floating around kind of thing. He was just cross-legged, fingers in a OK sign, and he was meditating, spinning in circles while floating up and down. Now, a bug. Yes, it's a bug. The devs acknowledged it as such. It got patched out. But that sort of accident doesn't just happen, in my opinion. I could be wrong about this, but hear me out. How would a bug animated like that appear in a game where that animation does not exist anywhere else? There is no instance in any cinematic, in any gameplay, anywhere, where a character sits cross-legged and does meditation while floating up and down in the air. So why did this one enemy have this animation and was unkillable? It just makes me skeptical and worried about further inclusions to the game because that seemed kind of purposeful. Or if not purposeful, it was a very lazy mistake because how the hell did that happen? And on that note, this sort of clunkiness, I guess, of the game in general, the camera. The camera is your enemy in this game, there's no denying that. I've played, again, 50 plus hours of this game, and let me tell you, I hate the camera on console. It's terrible. It's quite simply terrible. You'll be fighting enemies, and you'll get stuck in a corner, and you can't see the enemy that you're fighting. And that ruins the entire experience because you need to see the enemy to fight them because of the countering system and the perfect evade system and all of that. Trying to get out while you're trapped in a corner is nearly impossible, and then that's further impeded by not being able to see the enemy. Yeah. So, I'm trying to think where else the camera was an issue, but I think that mainly sums that one up. It's just a problem. It just needs to be smoothed. I'm not really sure what they can do, but it just needs to be gone. Right? I'm not dealing with that. Or rather, I don't want to have to deal with that. I shouldn't have to. I'm sure they'll patch it out. Like I say, they've been really on top of this. They've been patching stuff left, right, and centre already. They're working hard on the game. I can see that. I'm not gonna say anything negative about the devs. I will say that the whole clapping on the back thing that happened on Twitter, I disagree with that. I think that was really horrible and disgusting. They were really hostile to the community. Us customers who were paying for their game and supporting them this whole time, defending them against haters the whole way, and then they just had to go and drop this bomb on us, I guess you could call it, where they were saying, "Oh, our community sucks because they're constantly complaining about this and that." And it's like, look, I do dislike all of the complaints, but some of them are valid, and really, the frame rate issue was kind of valid. I mean, the stability still sucks in this game so much. The frame rate issue was valid, and we had devs clapping themselves on the back because they were standing up to us, saying that we are wrong, when actually they're the ones that are wrong. Just to give you an insight, their frame rate issue was that they couldn't provide 4K 60. Now, I'm not going to completely argue with this and say there are other games that can do this, you should be able to follow by example. But I am going to say, I have in fact played games that are like that, you know? That I've played, just off the top of my head, Borderlands, right? Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. They do achieve 4K 60, and they go that one step further of like whatever it is, 1440 and 120, or maybe 1080 and 120. But either way, there are definitely games this generation that are providing the exact specifications that Gotham Knights is purporting to say that it can't, you know? I just think it's a little bit scummy of them to really sort of victimize themselves and say that the community is being overly harsh when actually we're not, for the most part anyway. But that's about it, yeah. I'm sure some of you can probably decide what my opinion on the game is based on all of the issues and praise I've given, but I'm not going to explicitly say what my stance on the game is. I think that's really up to you to decide. I've tried to give you an objective look at the game. Obviously there is bias in it because I played one character and I've had a very specific experience with the game. So yeah, there's definitely bias, but from what I've talked about, I hope it's helped in some way. Either you agree with me, you disagree with me, you want to talk about it more, or it's helped you decide if you're going to buy the game or not. I'm not really fussed. I just really wanted to get this discussion out of the way. I know this was a messy video. I've never done one of these before, so it's, you know, all over the place. But it is what it is. And thanks for listening. So yeah, see you in the next video, hopefully.